Now, insurance stocks fell sharply last week after starting the year very poorly, very strongly. But what are the prospects for this sector? We have standing by in Joburg, Oyebola Faride, and an analyst with AGH Capital to give us his perspective on the insurance sector. It's great to have you on the show, Oyebola. And I think a good place to start is, what are you telling investors that are speculating in this sector right now? The insurance space has been extremely volatile this year with very sharp high and low movements.
Good morning, Wale. Thank you for having me on the program once again. If you ask what we're telling investors, we're telling them to yes, invest in the sector, but open their eyes wide with the positions they take. It's a very volatile sector, and the reason being is very clear. These are small cap stocks with very little with not very good corporate governance and reporting standards, but you still find a few picks in that sector that are very good, that are well run, that also presents with opportunity. Actually, between the last time we spoke, that was in November, and now, we've seen a lot of activities. We've seen things happen. We've seen major talks start. We've seen some of them collapse. We've seen the activity that we weren't seeing them in terms of price appreciation. But now we've seen that it's right, accompanied with some degree of volatility, and that's where investors need to be careful. There's always a right price for every stock, and that's what they should look out for.
All right, so the key word is being selective. But give us your broad view, broad expectations for earnings. Of course, that is what should drive value. The earnings season for the insurance space will probably kick off closer to April, when we begin to see the likes of Guaranty Trust Assurance release numbers. What are your broad expectations, and which companies do you think will stand out in that earnings season?
Broad expectations for earnings for the sector is quite good for the well-run companies. I would always have to put that caveat. We should be looking at a range of between 15 to 25% increase in earnings, because the penetration level at the moment is still very low. We are looking at around 10%. There's opportunity to really grow this sector. As long as these companies look at their financial position and look at maybe consolidating and merging to form bigger and stronger entities, they are more likely to do better going forward. Also, with the advent of the current no premium, no cover policy, the sector is expected, beyond the 2012 earnings that we're looking at, the sector, in my opinion, should do very well going forward into the future.
But which companies will stand out? Many people will point to the likes of Guaranty Trust Assurance, Continental Reinsurance, which is like the only local reinsurer.
Yeah.
Many people are anticipating that they should do well. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would take those two as well. I would take Mansard, I'll take Continental Reinsurance. Custodian is also going to be on my list on the back, and that will be on the back of their merger with Crusader. These companies seem to have consistently, over the past 4 or 5 years, done very well in the market, and they've been transparent. They've not had the issue of delayed reporting. They've also employed slightly decent investment strategies, which is very important to success in the insurance business. Besides this, they're also well capitalized, So those are the ones I will probably be looking at to pick in. On the converse, let me also say that
let's look at the broader.
Yes, Wale.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry,
yes, I was also going to say, well, if I want to look at what I would pick, I probably would also be looking at what I would want to short in the sector. We've seen a real kind of bandwagon movement in the sector, and we've seen a number of stocks rally. If I'm holding some of those stocks, it's probably a good time for me to get out, pending the time some of these companies get themselves right and put their house in order.
Okay, I mean, it's quite clear that the market has moved, or rather the investors have really piled up some of those shares. Like of Intercontinental WAPI, up almost 150, well, in fact, over 150% gains from year to date. So that's really staggering returns. But yes, how do I play this sector? You've already alluded to it to some extent. You think we should begin to short some. But if I was going to create a portfolio and overweight insurance stocks, which specific companies should I be adding to my portfolio at this stage?
I would overweight Mansard. I would overweight Continental Re and Custodian for the reasons I had stated previously.